Hello everyone, welcome to Reactify Labs. Today we are going to talk about another design pattern, uh, another behavioral design pattern called state pattern. So let me start by writing the name ST, state pattern. Okay, so let's start with the technical definition. State. State pattern is a behavioral design pattern that lets an object alter its behavior when its internal state changes, and it appears as if the object changed its class. So basically, what happens is whenever some internal uh, event is performed or something internally happens or internal state changes, the behavior of the object changes. I know the definition is not helping very much, so let me explain to you with a very simple, very common example which we see in our everyday life. Okay, what is it then? It is a very common system called YouTube or Spotify or Netflix or any media player. So, what happens here is if you see, so let's say this is the interface of your mobile phone. Okay, you open the app and you see this thumbnail of song, either a video or thumbnail of the mm, audio song. Okay, so here you, let's say this is the media. Okay, and here if you see there are three buttons. So one button is for going to the previous song, one button is for going to the next song, and there is one more button here which keeps changing. Okay, so initially when you just open the app and nothing is playing, there is a stop button here, right? There is a stop button. Now what happens is when you press, sorry, the music is stopped, so the button that's present here is a play button, right? So a play button is present. When you press on this play button changes to pause button. It tells you to pause the music. And there is one more button which can be there, which is called stop button. I'm not sure in which case it will be there, but let's say if the music ends and you have kept it on a non-loop, non-restart mode, then what happens is once the music ends, this changes to this stop. Right? Does it? Mm, I am not sure. No, it remains a play button here. But okay, I think you got my point. So we have these things like we can uh, make something play, pause, or stop. So if you see what happens is if the current state of the music player is stop, then the button when I'm talking about is this button. This button that you see, it will be a play button, right? Because from the stop what you can do is you can play, you cannot pause it, right? You can only play from the stop. There is another, let's say current state is pause. Then if the song is paused, if the current state is play, you will see pause. If the current state is paused, you will see the play button. If you click on the button on a paused music or movie, it will start playing, right? So this will also have play button. And if the current state is play, then you will have a pause button. You will not have stop button ever. Okay, so I hope this gives you an idea of where this state pattern is used, right? So now if this is clear, we will move towards seeing the implementation of this pattern. Okay, just keep in mind this thing, this. Okay, let me start making the classes here itself so that I can quickly reference it from here. So we will have an interface called state. There will be a state interface, okay, which will have a button called press play, okay, and it will take something, right? State will have three states, right? So one is play state, another one will be a pause state, and one more will be stop state, correct? All these will have something. Great. Now what happens is, this is the internal state, right? Then we will have a media player, like this is something common. We can reuse these things either in Netflix or YouTube or Spotify or any music or media player, right? So we will just use a class called media player, which is going to use these buttons, use these states. So this media player will have a state object, state, right? And what media player does is, it does nothing. It will just call the press play button, okay. Let me show you how. What is the purpose of this media player button? Hmm? The purpose of this media player button is this is the button, right? Which I showed in the app. This back, this front, and this current, whatever this button is. So media player presses this button, okay. So we will have one more function called press play, and when this play is pressed, what happens is, this state will call the press play function which is there in the interface. If you see this press play, this state will call this press play, okay, and it will call it with this. Why? Because we do not know which press play will be called, right? We have a press play here, we have a press play here, we have a press play here. You will ask, where is it? Because it's an interface, obviously we have to override it, right? So we have a press play here, we have a press play here, and we will have a press play here, correct? Good. Now what happens now? What happens now is, first, if you see, we have left a space here for something. This space is for what? This space is for the media player object, okay. So we will use it like media player and player. Similarly, since these are inheriting this state, these three states are inheriting the interface state, each of these will have a media player, media player, and one more media player, correct? And these press play, wait a second, sorry, these are classes. uh, Class play state, I'm sorry, but this is class play state, class pod state, and we will have a class stop state, right? And these press play will have this media player object, media player, this will also have media player, and this will also have media player. It's not confusing because we have already defined it in the interface, and whatever is there in the interface, the child classes which are going to implement the interface have to override it, okay. So it's straightforward. Now if you see, what happens here is, whenever this press play is called, something happens. Whenever this press play is called in the pause state, then something happens. Whenever this press play is called in this stop state, then also something happens, right? What happens? Whenever press play button is called, some logic will run. Okay, this logic will do whatever is required to play the music, or whatever is, if it's currently the play state and this press play is called, then obviously if you see in the play state, if press play is called, it will go to pause state. Some logic will go and the state will change to pause state, right? So the state will change, so we have to change the state. Have we used the logic to change state here? Not yet, right? Who will change the state? The media player will change the state. So in the media player we'll have another function called set state, right? The set state will use a parameter of state, and this function will set the state variable, this dot state equal to state, right? And once this press play is called in the play state, what will happen is this player will call the set state. And what will it set this state to? This will set the state to new pause state. It will pass the object of a pause state. Similarly, if the current state is paused, when we press the play button, it plays, right? So again, it will have the logic, and this player will call the set state on the object what? Play state, new play state, right? Similarly, in this, if the current state is stop state and this press play button is called, then this state will change to play. So again, there will be some logic, and then this will change to player dot set state to what? The player dot set state will change to new play state. So it means, if you see, it will change the state to play state, right? And when this play state value, it will populate this state. This state will be populated with play state, this state will be populated with whatever the state is changing to. And then how will this get populated? Using this step, this will get populated, and that's it, we are done, right? Let's see how it works. So there will be a client code which is going to use it. So we will create an instance of media player. As I told you before, the media player can be anything: Spotify, Netflix, YouTube. So let's say we have a media player, player, right, which will have an object called new media player, right? And what this player will do is, this player will call just press play, player dot press play, right? Before that, just one thing which I think I missed. There will be a media player constructor. This media player constructor, what it will do is, it will just set the state to new stopped state. Why? Because if nothing is going on, it means nothing is playing, nothing is paused, it's stop state. So the default state is stop state. So when this player got created, the default state this player has stop state. Then when this player calls the press play function, what happens is, in the stop state, it calls the press play, and current state is set to play state here, and this play state value is set, and the music starts playing because the current state is play. Now again, if you see, if we call player dot press play, what happens is, now the current state from here is the play state. We know that if we call this button again on press play on this playing state, what will happen is, it will change to pause state, right? That's it. The play changes to pause. And if we press the same button again, as we all know from our experience, that this press play again on pause state will play the music. That's it. So this completes the state design pattern. There is one more thing which I would like to bring to your attention. See, here I have used a class for media player. Why? Because I did not want to go into the specific media player. I just wanted it to be generic. But let's take the example of YouTube. Okay, YouTube has both YouTube has both music and video. So obviously YouTube does not write separate code for each, right? They may have millions and millions lines of code, so obviously they will try to reuse as much as possible. So they do not write separate code. In that case, what they would do is they will create an interface of media player, right? And this interface will have two children, music player and video player, right? And then this step which we created here like this, what they would do is they would do it like this. For music player, they would do media player. The name of the object is music player, and they will initialize it with new music player. For music player, they are going to do this, and for video player, media player, video player, they are going to initialize it with video player, right? So that's it. And this is a good code reuse. And also, if you see, if there are some things which are common here, if there are things which are common, because in both the states the constructor would be initialized with what, stopped state, right? The default state when initializing will be the stop state, so both of these will have the stopped state. So in that case we cannot use interface, so in that case we can use abstract class. Both of these promotes code reuse as much as possible. It's just the difference between interface and abstract class, and depending on our use case we can use either. So this is one thing which I pointed out because I saw it happening here. It's not related to this state design pattern, but I thought it's helpful to let you guys know. So that's it. I believe I have explained it clearly and there should be no more confusions about this. Thank you for watching. Please remember to like, share and subscribe. I will see you in the next one.